Hi, and welcome to Design It with Tammie Gibbs. I'm Tammie, and today I want to talk to you about clip art and kind of my process. I have done some videos on this in the past. You can go and look them up in my on my channel, but it's been a little while. And while I'm not going to get into a lot of the design and the clip art and all that stuff, I will go in and kind of just show you some stuff. This is going to be more of an overview kind of thing. I hope I can do it fairly quickly so you're not bogged down, but it'll just be sort of more of an overview of some of the products I use, some of the processes I use when I'm making clip art packages, and just talk about the whole process of selling clip art. So I get a lot of questions. So I'm going to try to approach this differently and maybe try to answer a few of those questions for you as they have come in to me over the months and years that now I've been doing videos for right a little over um, well, probably about a year and almost a half now that I've been doing the videos. But anyway, and then through, of course, my Facebook group, I also get a lot of questions as well. So, for most of you that are new to the channel, I do use Artistly. At this point, I have used it exclusively for any of the products that I sell, as far as my digital clip art, and my I use it to design the art for my invitations, that sort of thing. So I use Artistly. If you don't have Artistly, all you've got to do is watch a few of my channels. If you think you're interested in it, it really helps me if you use my link. It's down in the description. Really appreciate that. I try to definitely give out way more than I get, when it comes to that sort of thing. I'd only have referral links for things that I've used, that I'm sold on myself, that I see value for you. So I'm not just throwing you a bunch of links out there and wanting you to go and buy those things. Now, having said that, what you see me using is the full version. It is around $149 or something like that. Or at the time this video is being made, it's around like that. That gives you all the bells and whistles, all the updates. Currently, it is a lifetime, one-time cost. And I've already been using it since fall of 2023 when it was launched. I bought it the first day. I just, for some reason, it clicked, and I'm so glad that it did. It was just meant to be, because I've built now a whole business around learning how to use this particular product and all of the wonderful products it's allowed me to create. Sorry, I'm going to probably cough a little bit. I was sick for several weeks around Christmas with some sort of respiratory issue, and I'm just now getting where I can actually talk without coughing a lot, but I'm still occasionally coughing. I do apologize up front for that. I hope it doesn't take away too much from the content of the video. But anyway, so just wanted to have just a conversation with you, because a lot of times people do not set out to sell clip art. I did not set out to sell clip art. Instead, I set out to find what product I wanted to sell. I started playing around with design because I have a background in um, designing invitations. I designed ads for many, many years through one of my businesses that I had. I published little magazines. And so I did a lot of design work and layout stuff. So I was already a graphic artist. And so that came naturally. So I wanted to be able to use those skills into trying to create some passive income. By trade, I am a real estate broker in Georgia. And so, anyway, I still do that. But just as I get older, I think everybody likes the idea of a little bit more passive income. As your family ages. My parents are older now. I have grandchildren. Your, I guess, priorities kind of change, and kind of just where you see yourself, And I wanted to limit some of the uh, I guess, exertion that real estate is you've got to go at it very, very hard. And I have been doing it for over 20 years. So I have a lot of background in that and I will continue. That is still my full-time job. But I just wanted to do something different. I've always been creative. I am published on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Anyway, I'm a published author with novels that happened many years ago and continues to happen. And so, coming from that creative side and all of that, I've always been very, very creative, and I have a lot of different interests and just wanted to marketing. I've been in marketing for many, many years. So, very diverse. I'm a very diverse person. And I always have joked that and where people wear different hats, I wear different occupations. I've done quite a few different things. I've been had a balloon and gift basket shop was my very first official Main Street type business. I did that for like 8 years. Then I went into publishing and ended up publishing around 5 different magazines from the ground up, and did that for another 12 or so years. And then eventually I made it into real estate and that sort of thing. So I've done a lot of different things, and it would take an entire video for you to know all the different things. So maybe we'll do one of those in the future. But it does give me a lot of varied experience for doing the digital products, for being in this space now, and also being in this space to give you ideas and tips and tricks and things that I've done. And a hand up, so that you don't have to maybe start from where I started with all of the different things. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I love the videos. I missed the weeks, and it was really closer to about a month and a half that I was unable to physically do the videos due to not being able to talk. It was around the holidays, holiday commitments, on top of being sick. So I had to take a little bit of a break and hiatus from it. And I have missed it so much because when I do these videos, I really do imagine that I'm talking directly to you. And that has been such a joy in my life to be able to share with you these things that hopefully will help you improve your business and help you achieve your goals. So back to, our content. Um, like I said, I just want to show you some of the tools that I use and how I use them. So Artistly is my image generation feature. Now, as far as that goes, most of you know, and by the end of this, if you don't know, I early on last year in 2025, and around February, I launched my first playbook. And that playbook basically was the result of me going in. I'd already learned Artistly, but to get the various styles, I really loved watercolor. I found out early on that in whichever generators, whether it was Artistly or Midjourney or some of the others that people use, if you use it in those tools and when you're prompting, if you don't know the correct terms for getting the effects that you want, whether it's a watercolor style or whether it's the proper shading, the right colors, the right textures. If you don't know those terms that the generators have been trained on, you're not going to be able to communicate with that generator. And I often feel like these generators are if you envision a different artist, and I always have used this illustration, you're walking down the boardwalk at, say, a beach, or anyway, a coastal town, and sometimes you'll see artists that set up along the way, and they'll sketch you, or they'll be working on a painting that you can purchase or something like that. And you go from one to the other, you see that they each have different styles. And that's kind of the way the generators are. They're like a different artist. Their interpretation and the way that they do their art is going to be based on their experience. Well, these AI art generators are like these little artists, but they're trained differently. And Artistly specifically, from the very beginning, when we had one generator, we went from one, and then we had like maybe two generators, and then we have gone to now a whole entire suite of various different generators. So when you purchase Artistly, you're purchasing more than one generator. You're purchasing a whole entire suite of different products. Now they have all of the storybook agents, things that help you make specific products on top of the art generators. So they have made their purchase even more valuable. So the same amount of money, basically, that they started with, around $149, and that's US dollars, is going to now buy you way more than it bought when I bought it in 2023, because I had one generator. And if that generator didn't make the art I wanted, I had to continue, and really, it was trained very broadly on tons of information so that it would be able to deliver the vast majority of the request. But you really had to play a lot with your prompting, and it was a different type of prompting than now it really is, because now you get a little bit of help based on all of the different generators that you have. Let me just show you, since we're on the generators, we're going to go into Create Design here in Artistly. Right now, I'm just going to work on this one. This is a whole different thing. So just inside this, if this is all you got, you see that you have the image designers. You see how many different ones you have just on this tier. And I work with Artistly to me is like tiers of products. I hear a lot of complaints about the way it is organized. I guess it's because I have used it so much. I've gotten used to the way it's organized. It doesn't bother me anymore. It does not keep me from being able to do what I want to do. And that is because I've gone in and learned the program. If you go in and familiarize yourself with each tier and what is available on each tier, and then you realize that just because it says it's photorealism doesn't mean you can't go in and get a watercolor out of this. It's all in your prompting. So, if you watch me very much, you're going to catch that theme, that you don't have to take it for face value. Yes, those are the things. That this means that it has been trained to do photorealism, maybe more so than the training it gave for one of the things that it does. Okay, so this is just one tier. The next tier is the AI design agent. So this is things that are specific to products. Okay, so like here's a seamless pattern. You have all the storybook ones. You have thumbnails. You have music storyboards, ad creator, cookbook creator, joke books. You have wall art sketches. You have coloring books. You have clip art, all kinds of things. Okay, that are under this under this tier. You also have this Storybook Studio, which is also some beta things that give you an extra layer of stuff if you're working on storybooks. Then you have the AI design assistants, and now all of this is for that one-time price, and you can make things with this and sell them for now until eternity, forever. And so let me cut my phone off on silent, sorry. So anyway, and then the design assistants, this tier is basically to help you, like you've got mockup creator, product photos, character creator, you've got a storybook illustrator, You have all of these different things, sketch, photo. Most of these, or a lot of these, they use things that allow you to um, take and work with images you already have. So it's pretty simple. These are designers specifically. You have the over here, the AI art illustrators also, design generators, I would say, generating art. You have this consistent characters. You have a whole entire tier now devoted to kids puzzles. And I'm going to be doing soon a video on that as well to show you how you can make money off of that. But anyway, so this is just a brief overview of all the things for this particular product. If you're interested, check it out. They have a 30-day money back guarantee. At least they still do now. If you don't like it, you can always get your money back. But I can't imagine anybody that wouldn't want this in their toolbox. It's just too powerful a tool. Okay. So I use this to create my art. Okay. Next, I sell on Etsy. I also sell on Gumroad, and I have a store on Teachers Pay Teachers right now. I'm going to be loading my playbooks, and back to the playbooks. I had mentioned them briefly. The playbooks are geared and started when I was in Artistly and I was building my prompts, and I got in there, and like I was saying, the watercolors were difficult. We didn't have back then. We didn't have as many of the different categories or of generators. We didn't have as many of them. So early on, I realized that I was having to do a lot of searching and going in and asking various AI, what is this called? I didn't personally want them writing my prompts. I just wanted to know what those terms were so that I could build my own prompts, because that's just the way I approach it. I don't want the AI, I don't want the art that I produce to be me asking for a sailboat or asking for a dog and then selling just that dog and that sailboat, because it answered all the other questions for me. It answered the color, it answered the stuff. So it's really the AI's dog or sailboat, because I didn't give it enough information for me to be able to say, I created that because I told it what to do. I told it what color to make it. I told it what shape ears to have. When you get down to those decisions, then that invests you in that. Now, and a lot of you may not know this, but on Etsy, in their rules, which a lot of people never read, you are allowed to sell things created with AI. But if you're selling clip art or art, it has to be from it has to be from your prompts. In other words, they don't really like it when you just go to Chat GPT or somewhere like that and get it to write your prompt exactly the way it is, and then you go and create the art, and you sell it that way. That is really not what they want you to do. They want you to take whatever prompt it is and change things around and make it your own. So when you get sample prompts and everything, it's really important. Even though it may be easier, and in the beginning, you're gonna probably, if you're just getting started, you're gonna want to start with some prompts just to see kind of how they're laid out, to kind of get the feel for them. And in my playbooks, I do have a lot of sample prompts. It's just to help you get an idea what certain wording and what results that wording is going to get you. After a little while, you're not going to be as dependent on somebody else's prompts to get you where you want to go. You're going to want to be more individual. Or I feel like most people that are in this space that are going to have longevity, because we have to face the fact that while right now AI is making our lives easier and making it faster for us to get products on the market, at some point, if you do not spend a little bit of time to learn how to prompt and learn how to command the AI to do what you want it to do and become invested in that output, then you're going to be one of a bazillion items that look almost identical. And so the more work that you put into it, and I'm not meaning you have to write a whole entire 4 or 5 paragraph prompt. It's not that, it doesn't have to be to that extreme. You can write still a very short prompt. A lot of mine are very medium sized prompts. And it depends on the detail and layer that you want to do it. For instance, I started off, I've got, I had a very basic learn the different styles type playbook. That was volume 1. Now that volume can still be used over and over again, and it has those basic concepts that are going to give you a very much better understanding of what you're doing. The second one was specifically geared towards clip art. Now you can use that for any type of art, but it is really filled with things that are definitely helpful for clip art people. And these are filled with phrase banks and word banks that give you all the individual little ingredients to create your prompt recipes. And you can mix and match those however way you want to. There's colors, there's texture, there's phrasing to get different things like mermaids, or to get scales or whatever. So it's a very intensive reference material. And then each one of my other, I have a total of 13 playbooks now. I have 10 that are what I consider in the design realm, like the specific, all the banks and stuff. Then I have one on themes. I have one on digital products, that gives you ideas and everything on those. And then I have one on marketing. So they're not numbered in that way. They're kind of standalones. And so the playbooks, the first one was basically me deciding that I was tired of going back and having to look things up over and over again. Some of the same things, because I would forget like what that watercolor style that I wanted to get was called. And so I started doing research and pulling in all these phrases and all of this theory on how the AI worked, and how it interprets things, and it was kind of groundbreaking. I didn't realize it at the time, but the resource ended up being like around 400 pages when I was done. And it was just way too much information, and too much work had gone into it not to want to share it. So then I started kind of sharing it out. More and more people really liked it, and it just blew up from there. So now, like I said, I have all of these different ones on different things. But even with the playbooks, it's all about leveling, and each playbook makes it easier for you to level, and layer in your prompts. For instance, if you get the basis from the clip art, volume 2, the one on clip art, but then you want to apply that and go a little bit, I mean, you can do some really pretty characters, for instance. Now, that's just one part of it. But if you wanted to do a little cute little girl, or you wanted to do a cute little boy, and you wanted to do a soccer, in a little soccer uniform, or if you wanted them to be dressed up like a pirate or whatever, you can do that, okay? But then if you want to layer it even further and you want to tell the AI how to control things, like, for instance, this is my playbook on characters. So this is mastering character creation, body language, and emotions. So if then you've got your basic character, but then you decide, well, I'd like it to, I want to know how to give it this hairstyle, or, whatever. So these are just some of the things. Skin tone. If you don't want the normal, I have had people for the year and a half, since I've been doing the videos, and even in my group, comment about how hard it is to get the darker skin tones, And so there's an entire section inside this particular playbook on skin tone, and it gives you different phrasing that you can use to get the skin tones. That's only a very tiny element. Knowing a word and knowing a phrase is not you cheating on the prompt. It's you having the proper vocabulary and phrasing to instruct it on the more technical side of getting your creative end product. So if you can tell it what shape, nose, and mouth, and tell it in the way that the AI understands, then that's going to add another layer of uniqueness to whatever art you're doing, whether it's clip art or you're doing it for an invitation or you're doing it for wall art, whatever you're doing. So that when I did this one, which is actually volume, let me see, what volume is this one? 7. So this added yet another layer, and I just had one that came out on objects and on another one on mastering florals. So all of these are designed just to give you that um, reference material to go back in. Think of it like a dictionary for art, for the art and for AI. It's kind of like that. I mean, when, you're looking for the, or a thesaurus, perhaps, would be a better description of it. So you want to know how to tell it to do a certain kind of eye shape or whatever it is. And the same thing with clothing. In volume 2, there is a huge section on different clothing and how you can add that. So this takes you from, in your clip art, being able to take and say, I want a cute little girl wearing a cute little dress with, sneakers or something like that, to being able to tell it exactly the way, the pattern that you want on the dress, or what type of dress, if you want it to be dressed up like a little boy to be dressed up like an astronaut, or a knight, with the proper, um, all the stuff that a knight would wear. A medieval knight, that is. But anyway, so those are just some of the fundamentals, and that's how the playbooks help. And so that's a huge tool that I use. I'm just talking about tools now. So this is just showing you what I do and how I do it to be efficient. So we've got Artistly. We have my playbooks that I reference all the time when I go to make my art. And then we have Canva, because Canva is where it all comes together. Inside Canva, and I actually have one of these because earlier when I have shown how I put together my clip art packs, there's a video on that. Inside and I have Canva Pro because it's worth every penny of it. I don't pay for things that I don't get the use out of. So I get that because I get all those little things like the background remover and being able to use the magic eraser and the magic grab. All of those are very helpful. But inside, this is my idea guide. Okay. So I actually have this. So many people asked about it until I actually sell it now. This idea guide and pictorial image catalog is what I use to deliver my link to my Dropbox folder, where they can get a link. If it's an invitation, they get their links to the Canva templates, their template links. If they're buying clip art, then they get a link to the folder on Dropbox that I've set up for the actual product and all of their clip art. Because clip art is very hungry when it comes to how large the files are. If you've got 25 decent clip art pieces, it's going to be more than what Etsy's going to allow you to do. So I use a delivery vehicle. Now, what that looks like when I'm doing clip art is this. It's an idea guide I'm not really going to walk through that much other than just walk you through what is included in this little template pack that you can purchase. This is just gives you my system. So basically, these are thumbnails that I use to show all of the different clip art. So each one of these boxes. Then you also get the way that I do my little slideshow video for Etsy is I have a brand template I've set up that I can drag and drop for each new clip art pack. So you get an example of that already set up where all you've got to do is drag and drop your stuff in. And then you get my idea guide. The idea guide itself is several pages of, you can see it here. And it basically has a picture of the clip art pack, the cover that I use. And then on the inside, it has where the buyer can print out. Now, I don't watermark those because if they get it, they've already purchased the product. And it's designed so they can print those out, stick them in like a 3-ring binder, and then flip through the art that they've purchased from me. You know, a lot of them purchase multiple packs. You know, they're regulars and they purchase a lot of clip art. So, you know, every time they purchase, they get this. They can print it out one time. They can sit down, you know, on the couch, and when they're planning a project, they can flip through easily without having to scroll through all of this art to see what art they have. I got that idea because early on when I was publishing, you know, I used to use there was like Clipart and some different companies that I would buy the CDs that had the art on them, and I would use them in ads and stuff like that. And, you know, with proper licensing. But they all came with books that showed you the art. So then you sat down, you flipped through, figured out what art you wanted, and then you went to that disc that it was on, pulled it off, and it was an easy process. When I started purchasing, this was before I started making my own clip art, I started using Creative Fabrica and buying. I never did the subscription because that just didn't appeal to me. I wanted to just straight out buy just specifically the art pieces, the packs that I wanted, and know the exact licensing and everything. So when I started doing that, I bought a ton of that art, and now I don't even use it because it's just easier for me to know that my products have something I've created. I don't have to worry about the licensing or how I'm using it or whatever. You know, it's liberating for me. So what I do, what I did with Creative Fabrica stuff was I had to scan through all that stuff. You know, even though it said bears or something, I was literally scrolling through tons of material. And I don't know about you, but that is a waste of time, and it's not the most pleasant part of my day to be scrolling through numerous different things trying to find a piece of artwork that I like. Whereas if I could just sit down and flip through real quickly, I could see lots of images all at one time instead of like one at a time, or, you know, 4 or 5 pieces at a time or whatever. It just was faster. And so I decided to make my delivery vehicle this little idea guide. So it includes like a thank you message. It includes a links page that has links to the product. And then it has like a couple of pages that show those images, like on a t-shirt or a pillow or whatever little things. You know, I basically have kind of kept it the same. I may change it up this year and do a different layout, but right now I've only used that one. And so that's something that all I do is drag and drop those new images each time into this brand template that I've got set up on Canva. So because I can do the brand templates, that saves me time. I'm not recreating the same exact thing over and over again. And then as far as the video goes, I have this little 2500 by 2500 set up, and you can see the example. This is basically, I could click over here and go to download and then go up here. And instead of going into create a video, I just go down to for video, and that'll make it like a slideshow. So that's easy. I have it all set up the way I'm going to do it. I can download those as PNGs, and I use those in the picture slots, and then I go in and do the MP4 with like little extra things, like you're getting this or that, kind of like this is set up, like included for you or whatever. I have those, as well as telling them it's a digital product. I put that in the little slideshow, the little video slideshow. And also, I have that where it, relays the other way. So, and then I have, of course, my thumbnails, which I also include in, I'll save those and use those for my images, that'll show them each one of the ones. Those, in those slots, those have the little light watermark that kind of mine looks kind of like a little honeycomb, I guess. I kind of liked the way that looked. So that's how I use. So this is one of the ways I use Canva. The other way is when you go over to, let me just go to projects and I'll show you. These are my brand templates. And like, for instance, this one is set up already. I can go into this brand template, and basically I have the ingredients for my cover. I move this around for each one so it doesn't look the same. Now, I don't normally have all of this. I just happened to do on that one. This basically has everything in here. Oh, I can actually show you though. This has everything all in one thing. So it's got this idea guide, and I'll just go through the pages the way it looks. Terms of use, how it was created, and then I go into the inspiration aspect, and then I go into showing them. Now, all they have to do, if they want to, is print maybe from here on, and then put those in a 3-ring binder, and they can easily pop through that Clipart pack. That would allow them to divide things up in their notebook or their binder. You could divide it however you wanted to. All theirs, you could do baby items, you could do, they can set them up however they want. So, and a lot of people are using this system now because they've bought the whole, templates to set it up the way they want to do it. And then this is the way I drag and drop all my images. And then I use the ones that don't have this honeycomb as the images that I use for inside the idea guide, but then I put the watermark over them and use them for inside my listing for Etsy. So let's go to Etsy, and I'll show you kind of what that looks. And okay, so let me just go into my store. Okay, so this is some of my items right here. Not all of them, but that's interesting because normally it makes me go somewhere else. So I'm just going to go to my store, and that's a roundabout way to get there. But anyway, this is my store, Trotter's Lane. Treasures, make sure that lane is not spelled out. It wasn't long enough to let me do that. So if we go into my clip art, this is going to show you how that looks. Let's find a good one to go into. Let's go into this one. This is one of my newer ones. So I have my cover. Next, I have my little video, which is like a little slideshow. And I actually reuse the images from my idea book to do that. And depending on how long when you do it, normally it would go out and have some other details. But anyway, and then this is how you see the little honeycomb? This is how I put in my images that come in this pack. And then I also like to, if people aren't going to watch that, I like to put in the little samples here. And then this shows you that they're getting the idea guide and pictorial image catalog. I have the listing as digital, and then this tells them that it's mixed artwork, my original and AI generated, vintage elements. This one covers everything that I do, so I just usually use that one. And so that shows you everything that I include, then of course, you've got your details about learning how much. I make sure that they know what they're getting. I always like to mention what it can be used for, because inside your description, that helps you also with basically your SEO inside Etsy. The more that you can tell it can be used for. And then also, like, the style even helps, because if somebody's looking for whimsical watercolor illustrations, then it's possible that it will come up in their searches. And then about it being an instant download, terms of use, all about it. Now, you have to make sure that you do include that it is, if you use AI, you have to disclose that. So, I always disclose that in my descriptions. And then also, I have it clearly identified in how it was created. So, that's just how it looks, not in theory, but in actual, the way I use it. Okay. So, we can click out of here, and we can go to the technical side back into Canva. So a lot of times what will happen is, let me just go into, let's just go into this image, and I'll open it into the editor. Okay, so you can see I can do a lot of things with this image. For instance, I can go under the edit over here. And then if I decide, I like that, but, maybe I want to make it a little more muted, then I could, work with these different filters and intensities, and I can create different variations. Okay, so I did that. And you can remove the background. When I first got started, I used Canva because I was working on a very small budget, and I already paid for Canva. And Canva does a fairly good job with background removal. Now, let me preface that to say that when you're working with Clipart, you have to make a determination whether you're going to spend several hours in the event that, let's just say, and I'm going to show you right now. Okay, because we can put it against a black background and you can see how well or how poorly that works. Okay, so you see this one cleared very well. You don't really have any real issues with this. Okay, but let's just say it did. Let's say it did not clean it, and you wanted to go in and clean little minute little details. Okay, I could spend hours on those, or I can just save those and put those on something like a label or something that I don't have to remove the background, and I save a ton of time. If I run into that problem, I'll go right back into Artistly. I'll redo more images along that same line and just live with it. That's just me and my productivity. I have no patience for going in and doing that little work when I'm going to sell it for, less than $10 for a pack. I'm going to put out the best artwork I can, and I'm going to take the least amount of time to get the best artwork I can. So it's got to be great artwork, but it also can't take me 2 or 3 days to come up with 10 or 15 images, or it's not going to me, it just doesn't work for me. That equation doesn't work. Now, there are a lot of people that they'll go in and they'll go into Photoshop and they'll go into all these different programs, and they will let it drive them completely insane. And I'm just going to say you don't have to do that if that is your choice not to. Just make another image. If that's what you're doing, make another image. And I promise you that if you do 4 or 5 more, you're going to find one you like just as well. I know that we have our favorites, and that's fine, because if it's our favorite, we'll find another use for it, to use it as a JPEG. Use it for some junk journaling stuff, a fussy cut maybe. Use it differently. So when you have that mindset, then it's gonna free you up, and you're not gonna be so obsessed about that part of it. Okay, so how do I upscale? Okay, if you only have Canva Pro, if you have to start here, it'll be a little bit more labor intensive because you can only do one at a time. Okay, but if you will go over to your apps, I'm going to show you that if you have Pro, I actually do have and that's not it. Da, da, da. I have an image. I have added this one. This one was part of it. It's part of the Pro, and it will allow you to either upscale a page or the image. And so you can go all the way up to 16, but it will tell you here that we've set it at 8x because that's the maximum for the image. It says higher options are unavailable due to resolution limits. So you can upscale this one image. Okay. So let's just see if we can upscale more than one image at a time. Now, I know the background removal doesn't work that way, but let's just say I'm going to add a couple more images. Let's go back. We're back. And I always find that this is really, once you kind of get into something, it's really hard to get back to let's go up here. Let's go position and see if it'll let me get to it quicker. For some reason, it's just not that great. We're trying to go over here, and I have yet to find an easy way to get back to. Okay, here we go. All right, so we need to get back to my uploads. Okay, so let's just do this one, and I'm going to do a couple on a page. Let's do this one. Okay, so let's see if it will let us do more than, if we go to upscale now, what it's going to do. We'll have to go back to the apps. And all right. So there are actually, it says 1 of 5, which there's not 5 images here. There's only 3. And we're going to, let's see if we can select more than one image. Okay, it allows you to add them. So we've got 3 images. So you can actually select them, and you can do upscale more than one at a time. So it will allow you to do that. That's sort of new. It didn't used to allow you to do that, but so you could do that, and that would save you a little bit of time. I use to bulk, and I paid for this. It was around, when I bought it, it was around $58 a year. But the time that it saved me is a lot. So we're going to go to, let's see, Pixel Cut. Okay. This is the screen, I think, that you're going to get when you do Pixel Cut. Now, a lot of people that have paid for it, they've moved some things around. So you can go to upscale here. You can go to remove background. And Let's just find an image if I can find one. We'll find this one. So when you do that, you do one at a time. Okay. So I'm going done and go back. Okay. So let me show you where to access in the event that you're having problems with this and you have found that it is not allowing you to do your bulk. Go to personal, go down to tools and templates, and it's going to give you the old way to get in there. Remove background. You can then batch edit. You click on it, you click on how, I do a whole folder at a time. And then the same thing, you would go down to upscale and then it click batch upscale, and then you can select them and batch upscale. The only thing that I don't like about Pixel Cut is rather than once you have removed the background, it would be so much easier if it would allow you to then click on and upscale at the same time. But now you actually have to go in and you have to um, like pull your folder. You have to download the background removed version, upload it back, and then batch your upscale. So that's the only thing I really don't like about that. But between Canva Pro and their background removal and upscale, and Pixel Cut and their bulk background removal and upscale, and you can do some other stuff in you can actually generate some images and stuff under Pixel Cut as well. So there's a lot of other things you can do with this program besides just what we were looking at. And I actually have a video on that too, so go check that out. But anyway, so you have those. So for instance, if for some reason an image doesn't clean properly with the background removal, I'll try it in Canva, and then if neither one of them work, then I usually will just move on to something else. But you can, it gives you kind of, one can do things sometimes or does it differently than the other one, so it may do a better job. Now, Artistly also has this bulk actions. So you can create an action, you can browse and pull in your images, and I'm just going to do one to show you. And you can actually use this to process. You can remove the background, then you can upscale it, and finally you can actually you can do several things. You can extend it, you can turn it into, you can do all face, you can do all those, but most of the ones I use are these. So then you can do this and then build your action, and you run the action, and then it's going to go through all of those actions and process that image. Now you can do more than one. I'm just doing this for the sake of time. But if you're going to use this, let me say that you're going to think when this pops up, see it's already popped up right here. Let me go out. It's already popped up. So you're going to think, oh, let's download it. But if you download it now, okay, and I'm going to open it. Okay, so if I go in and I get the file info, I'm going to see that it is 300 DPI, 32-bit. And that's how it looks. And that was one image. Now, if you happen to go in, see, this one's already processed. It did it very quickly because I only had the one image. But if you go in immediately and you don't check to make sure that all of these are green and that up here says private, you're going to download an image and it's not going to be 300 DPI or whatever, and it's not going to be completely processed. So be sure and check that all of your images have this private green. Otherwise, it's going to be have processing here. A lot of people have gone on the Artistly site and they have said, it's not working. I downloaded my images. They're not 300 DPI. It didn't work. And that was why, is because immediately it pops up the image here, and we are sort of trained to think that when it pops up here on Artistly that it's finished, and it's just, that's not the way that process works. You have to make sure and check those things. Okay, so let's just recap. Artistly for the images, Canva, I put my packs all together. I even go in and, like, I'll drag each one of my images in. I'll check them out, make sure they're good, do whatever little tweaking needs to be done. And then I'll download that whole folder of images, and I download them and make sure that they're the 300 DPI. So how can you get 300 DPI from Canva? Okay, so, whoops. Let's go back here. Okay, so how can you do that? Okay, so you can do it. Okay, so right now it's not 300 DPI. We did we didn't even upscale this one. So if you will drag this all the way over, and you have to click compress file. I'm not sure why. Now, if you want it transparent, obviously you need to do transparent as well. And then I'm just going to do this one image and do done. Now, this is based on, this current size that I have designed it in. But I'm going to show you the difference between doing it that way and then if you upscale if you convert using Artistly to the actual 300 DPI that way. Okay, so we're going to go to open. So we've got our image here, and we're going to go down to the file info, and you're going to see that this is 300 DPI, but where it changes and is different, this is an 8-bit 300 DPI instead of the 32-bit. So I'll be honest with you, my images that I have done, all of my clip art, I do it this way. I don't go and take it into Artistly. It's still 300 DPI. It has not made a difference in quality to me between the 8 and the 32-bit enough to have to do that extra step. So usually when I've done it and I know that they look good, I just do that. Now, if you design larger, you're not going to have to drag it all the way over. So play with that slider to see how far you have to drag it to get it where it renders in the 300 DPI. But anyway, that's just a little trick there. Okay, so we've covered basically the tools that I use to create my clip art packs. It's not super complicated. You can use different things, but for me, even when I'm designing my invitations, I do them in Canva just because it's simpler. I started out when I was doing my magazines, I used Corel Draw and the Corel products, the Corel suite. And that's Corel is not the easiest to use. I've used Photoshop, I've used all of the different ones, and they all have their place. But a lot of times I can work a lot faster because the learning curve's not there. I don't have to think about it as much, to get from one point to the other. I can set up these brand templates. I can reuse them. It just saves me time. So definitely, if you're a person that's just wanting to get into clip art sales, then this is just something that shows you that there's a way to do it with very, a minimal cost. While at the same time, you can sell templates this way, because if you're selling templates, the majority of the people, or I won't say majority, most of the people I know are not as intimidated by doing a free account on Canva, and you can share your templates and they can access them with a free account. And so if you want to do invitations and things that are templates like that you want them to be able to buy, then Canva is just a really good solution on both sides of that coin. So anyway, this has gone a little bit longer probably than I had intended for it to go, but it's just sort of an easy, you know, people kind of wanted to see what I was doing. Some people wanted to see, I think, if I was still doing it the way that I originally started, and I am. Another thing to think about is when you start out and you're doing invitations, let's say, and you decide to start making your own clip art. I have seen people like me that didn't start out to sell clip art, that was created, but I sell them because they go along with it. And personally, I do have some packs of different items that I have done, but I've not had time to go out and build out like the water bottles and all of the different things. I had somebody approach me wanting a little prince. Well, actually, I think it was a dinosaur and a tutu that was for one of my invitations, and they wanted to make a little T-shirt with a transfer themselves at home for their party, saying, so and so is for or whatever. And so that gave me the idea of selling that one image, for $3 or $4. And then that allowed them to take that one image, and then they can, if they want to go to the trouble to put it on other things, then they can do that. So, I mean, it's all in what you personally feel comfortable with doing. I mean, that one image, I felt like that was fine. It saved me some time, creating all those other things. Honestly, if a person doesn't want to do that, they would still buy those extra templates already set up if I were to create them. So I'm not really, I don't think, taking away from what my future potential for building out that product would be. I'm just doing it in the in between out there for those DIYers that wouldn't mind doing it that way, you know. So I'm still making kind of an additional sale or whatever. So that's just a way. But if you're making other products and you are beginning to create your own images, then that may be something you want to add to your store. If you don't, you feel like it competes, fine. It doesn't. I sell invitations, and having my clip art and everything, let me tell you. As a matter of fact, I created a whole pack of princesses. Um, and that was the first product I put in. Well, this works reverse too. If you're doing clip art, then maybe you want to do some invitations or something too. They work fine in my store. I sell invitations, I sell clip art, I sell my playbooks, that show people and teach people how to prompt to get their own art. All that works in my shop. Now, I know a lot of people niche down, and I'm not saying you can't. I feel like I am niched because all the things work together in one form or fashion. So, I'm not selling, I wouldn't mix digital and um, products that are physical together, because I think that's confusing. If you're known as a digital shop, then there's less confusion. But it is what it is. I personally, right now in this stage of my life, I don't really want to be doing a lot of shipping and that sort of thing. I feel like the postal system is less dependable, and it kind of freaks me out now. When I used to sell on eBay and Poshmark too, and I probably will still sell a little bit on Poshmark because it's easier. They send you the label and everything, so it's not as brain intensive for me to do that. But for now, I don't have anything in my shop anymore. The shop's there, but I don't have anything listed. Uh, I moved strategically into doing more with my digital products. So anyway, I think there is a little bit more room inside your niches. I think about department stores. Department stores have different departments that handle different things. So it depends a lot on how you're marketing yourself and whether your potential audience is the same audience for different things. And so I made these princesses and put them in as clip art. Well, then I thought they were so cute, I designed an invitation, and that invitation has sold a lot. I mean, it's one of my most popular invitations. Surprisingly enough, the pack with all of the different variations of the princesses in that same style, including the one that's on the invitation, has sold, but it's not sold near as many as it did as the invitations. And that is kind of exciting because I'm using one image on the invitation, and the invitations sell for more than what the whole pack of princesses were. So I don't know, go figure, right? So in the same respect that if you're doing other products and you're making all these images, you may want to put them in a pack. It also works reverse. If you're making invitation clip art packs, you may want to put them on some products, and you may end up selling those, or templates or whatever, and you may end up selling those. Okay, so I've kind of covered this morning kind of what I wanted to. I'll do a few more of these more technical kind of videos, just because I think it's a good time. We're early in the year. It's January of 26 when I'm making this. So it's when everybody is thinking about revamping things, and possibly getting into a merging or moving into a different market. So if you're doing other things like invitations and you're thinking, I might want to do the clip art, then maybe this is helpful for you. Keep in mind, at the end of the video, it will scroll through all of my different playbooks. So if you want to see what I've got available, just let it scroll through and show you, see if there's one that you need or one that you missed. Also in the description are links to my stores. Remember, if you are in the EU, my playbooks are available on Gumroad, and so you can access them there. Anybody can buy there, but the EU, that is where they are exclusively available. They're not on Etsy. So my Etsy store and that one. Pretty soon, I may add my Teachers Pay Teachers link as well as an option for folks, but for now, it's all of them are not there, so I'm not going to put that link. But anyway, all my links. Be sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you get all the updates and can keep up with when I release new videos. Like and share the videos, and also be sure and join my Facebook group if you're not joined already. And thank you for watching.